Book 2, Chapter 9, Part 1 of the Spirits Book. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit Librivox.org. Read by Cordelia Glendy. The Spirits Book by Allan Kardec, translated by Anna Blackwell. Intervention of Spirits in the Corporeal World. 1. Perception of our thoughts by spirits. 2. Influence of spirits upon our thoughts and actions. 3. Possession. 4. Convulsionaries. 5. Affection of spirits for certain persons. 6. Guardian angels, protecting familiar and sympathetic spirits. 7. Influence of spirits on the events of human life. 8. Action of spirits in the production of the phenomena of nature. 9. Spirits in war. 10. Pacts with spirits. 11. Occult power, talismans, sorcerers. 12. Benedictions and curses. Penetration of our thoughts by spirits. 456. Do spirits see everything that we do? They can do so if they choose, since they are incessantly around you, but practically each spirit sees only those things to which he directs his attention, for he pays no heed to those which do not interest him. 457. Can spirits see our most secret thoughts? They often see what you would fain hide from yourselves. Neither acts nor thoughts can be hidden from them. It would appear then to be more easy to hide a thing from a person while living than to hide it from that same person after his death? Certainly, and when you fancy yourselves to be hidden from every eye, you have often a crowd of spirits around you and watching you. 458. What is the thought of us by the spirits who are about us and observing us? That depends on the quality of the spirits themselves. Frivolous spirits enjoy the little annoyances they cause you and laugh at your fits of impatience. Graver spirits pity your imperfections and endeavor to aid you to cure yourselves of them. Occult influences of spirits on our thoughts and actions. 459. Do spirits influence our thoughts and our actions? Their influence upon them is greater than you suppose, for it is very often they who direct both. 460. Have we some thoughts that originate with ourselves and others that are suggested to us? Your soul is a spirit who thinks. You must have observed that many thoughts, and frequently very opposite ones, come into your mind in reference to the same subject and at the same time. In such cases, some of them are your own and some are ours. This is the cause of your uncertainties, because you have thus in your mind two ideas that are opposed to each other. 461. How can we distinguish between the thoughts which are our own and those which are suggested to us? When a thought is suggested, it is like a voice speaking to you. Your own thoughts are generally those which first occur to you. In point of fact, this distinction is not of much practical importance for you, and it is often better for you not to be able to make it. Man's action is thus left in greater freedom. If he decides for the right road, he does so more spontaneously. If he takes the wrong one, he is more distinctly responsible for his mistake. 462. Do men of intelligence and genius always draw their ideas from their own minds? Their ideas sometimes come from their own spirit, but they are often suggested to them by other spirits who judge them to be capable of understanding them and worthy of transmitting them. When they do not find the required ideas in themselves, they make an unconscious appeal for inspiration, a sort of evocation that they make without being aware of what they are doing. If it were useful for us to be able to distinguish clearly between our own thoughts and those which are suggested to us, God would have given us the means of doing so, as He has given us that of distinguishing between night and day. When a matter has been left by Providence in a state of vagueness, it has been left so because it is better for us. 463. It is sometimes said that our first thought is always the best. Is this true? It may be good or bad according to the nature of the incarnated spirit. It is always well to listen to good inspirations. 464. How can we ascertain whether a suggested thought comes from a good spirit or from an evil one? Study its quality. Good spirits give only good counsels. It is for you to distinguish between the good and the bad. 465. To what end do imperfect spirits incite us to evil? To make you suffer as they do themselves. Does that lessen their own sufferings? No, but they do so from jealousy of those who are happier than themselves. What kind of sufferings do they wish to make us undergo? Those which result from being of an inferior order and far removed from God. 466. Why does God permit spirits to incite us to evil? Imperfect spirits are used by Providence as instruments for trying men's faith and constancy in well-doing. You, being a spirit, must advance in the knowledge of the infinite. It is for this end that you are made to pass through the trials of evil in order to attain to goodness. Our mission is to lead you into the right road. When you are acted upon by evil influences, it is because you attract evil spirits to you by your evil desires. For evil spirits always come to aid you in doing the evil you desire to do. They can only help you to do wrong when you give way to evil desires. If you are inclined to commit murder, you will have about you a swarm of spirits who will keep this inclination alive in you. But you will also have others about you who will try to influence you for good, which restores the balance and leaves you the master of your decision. It is thus that God leaves to our conscience the choice of the road we decide to follow, and the liberty of yielding to one or other of the opposing influences that act upon us. 467. Can we free ourselves from the influence of the spirits who incite us to evil? Yes, for they only attach themselves to those who attract them by the evil nature of their thoughts and desires. 468. Do spirits whose influence is repelled by our will renounce their temptations? What else can they do? When they see that they cannot accomplish their aim, they give up the attempt, but they continue to watch for a favorable moment, as the cat watches for the mouse. 469. By what means can we neutralize the influence of evil spirits? By doing only what is right and putting all your trust in God, you repel the influence of inferior spirits and prevent them from obtaining power over you. Take care not to listen to the suggestions of spirits who inspire you with evil thoughts, stir up discord among you, and excite in you evil passions. Distrust especially those who flatter your pride, for in doing so they attack you on your weakest side. This is why Jesus makes you say in the Lord's Prayer, "Let us not succumb to temptation, but deliver us from evil." 470. Have the spirits who seek to lead us into evil, and who thus put our firmness in rectitude to the proof, received a mission to do this? And if so, are they responsible for the accomplishment of such a mission? No spirit ever receives a mission to do evil. When he does it of his own will, and therefore undergoes the consequences of his wrongdoing. God may let him take his evil way in order to try you, but he does not command him to do so, and it is for you to repel him. 471. When we feel a sensation of vague anxiety, of undefinable uneasiness, or of interior satisfaction without any assignable cause, do these sensations proceed simply from our physical state? They are almost always an effect of the communications which you unconsciously receive from the spirits about you, or which you have received from them during your sleep. 472. When spirits wish to excite us to evil, do they merely take advantage of the circumstances in which we find ourselves, or can they themselves bring about the circumstances which may favor their designs? They take advantage of the occurrence of any favorable circumstances, but they also often bring them about by urging you on, without your being aware of it, towards the object of your unwise desire. Thus, for instance, a man picks up a roll of banknotes by the wayside. You must not imagine that spirits have brought this money to this particular spot, but they may have suggested to the man the idea of going that way, and when he has found the money, they may suggest to him the idea of taking possession of it, while others suggest to him the idea of restoring it to its rightful owner. It is thus in all other temptations. Possession. 473. Can a person temporarily assume the envelope of a living person? That is to say, can he introduce himself into an animate body and act in the room and place of the spirit incarnated in it? A spirit does not enter into a body as you enter into a house. He assimilates himself to an incarnate spirit who has the same defects and the same qualities as himself in order that they may act conjointly. But it is always the incarnate spirit who acts at his pleasure on the matter with which he is clothed. No other spirit can substitute himself in the place of the spirit who is incarnated in a given body, for a spirit is indissolubly united with his body until the arrival of the hour that has been appointed by Providence for the termination of his material existence. 474. If there be no such thing as possession in the ordinary sense of the term, that is to say, cohabitation of two spirits in the same body, is it possible for one soul to find itself dominated, subjugated, obsessed by another soul to such a point as that its will is, so to say, paralyzed? Yes, and it is this domination which really constitutes what you call possession. But you must understand that this domination is never established without the participation of the spirit who is subjected to it, either through his weakness or his free will. The weakness, which sometimes brings a human being under the power of spirit tormentors, despite the strenuous resistance of his will, is always the punitive and expiatory result of his own wrongdoing, either in his present earthly life or in a former one. Men have often mistaken for cases of possession what were really cases of epilepsy or madness, demanding the help of the physician rather than of the exorciser. The word possession, in its common acceptation, presupposes the existence of demons, that is to say, of a category of beings of a nature essentially evil, and the cohabitation of one of those beings with the soul of a man in the body of the latter. Since there are no such beings as demons in the sense just defined, and since two spirits cannot inhabit simultaneously the same body, there is no such thing as possession in the sense commonly attributed to that word. The word possessed should only be understood as expressing the state of absolute subjection to which a soul and flesh may be reduced by the imperfect spirits under whose domination it has fallen. 475. Can a soul, of its own motion, drive away the evil spirits by whom it is thus obsessed, and free itself from their domination? You can always shake off a yoke if you are firmly resolved to do so. 476. Might not the fascination exercised by the evil spirit be so complete that the person subjugated should be unaware of it, and in such a case might not a third person be able to put an end to the subjection? And what course should be taken by the latter to that end? The willpower of an upright man may be useful by attracting the cooperation of good spirits in the work of deliverance, for the more upright a man is, the more power he possesses, both over imperfect spirits to drive them away and over good ones to draw them nearer. Nevertheless, even the best of men would be powerless in such a case, unless the subjugated person lent himself to the efforts made on his behalf. For there are persons who take delight in a state of dependence which panders to their depraved tastes and desires. In no case can one who is impure in heart exercise any liberating influence, for he is despised by the good spirits, and the bad ones stand in no awe of him. 477. Have formulas of exorcism any power over bad spirits? No. When bad spirits see anyone seriously endeavoring to act upon them by such means, they laugh at him and persist in their obsession. 478. Persons who are well-intentioned are sometimes obsessed. What are the best means of getting rid of obsessing spirits? To tire out their patience, to give no heed to their suggestions, to show them that they are losing their time. When they see that they can do nothing, they go away. 479. Is prayer efficacious as a means of putting an end to obsession? Prayer is always an efficacious means of obtaining help, but you must remember that the muttering of certain words will not suffice to obtain what you desire. God helps those who help themselves, but not those who limit their actions to asking for help. It is therefore necessary for the person obsessed to do his utmost to cure himself of the defects which attract evil spirits to him. 480. What is to be thought of the casting out of devils spoken of in the Gospels? That depends on the meaning you attach to the word devil. If you mean by that term a bad spirit who subjugates a human being, it is evident that when his influence is destroyed, he will really be driven away. If you attribute a malady to the devil, you may say when you have cured the malady that you have driven the devil away. A statement may be true or false according to the meaning attributed to certain words. The most weighty truths may appear absurd when you look only at the form under which they are presented and when an allegory is taken for a fact. Get this principle well into your mind and keep it there, for it is of universal application. Convulsionaries. 481. Do spirits play a part in the phenomena exhibited by the individuals designated under the name of convulsionaries? Yes, a very important one, as does also the agent that you call magnetism, whether employed by human beings or by spirits, for this agent is the original source of those phenomena. But charlatanism has often exaggerated those effects and made them a matter of speculation, which has brought them into ridicule. What is generally the nature of the spirits who help to produce phenomena of this kind? Of slight elevation. Do you suppose that spirits of high degree would waste their time in such a way? 482. How can a whole population be suddenly thrown into the abnormal state of convulsions and crises? Through sympathy. Moral dispositions are sometimes exceedingly contagious. You are not so ignorant of the effects of human magnetism as not to understand this, and also the part that certain spirits would naturally take in such occurrences through sympathy with those by whom they are produced. Among the strange peculiarities remarked in convulsionaries, several are evidently identical with those of which somnambulism and mesmerism offer numerous examples, namely, physical insensibility, thought-reading, sympathetic transmission of sensations, etc. It is therefore impossible to doubt that these chrysiacs are in a sort of waking somnambulism, determined by the influence which they unwittingly exercise upon each other. They are at once mesmerizers and mesmerized, unconsciously to themselves. 483. What is the cause of the physical insensibility sometimes remarked in convulsionaries, and sometimes also in other persons, when subjected to the most atrocious tortures? In some cases it is simply an effect of human magnetism, which acts upon the nervous system in the same manner as do certain substances. In other cases, mental excitement deadens the sensibility of the organism, the life seeming to retire from the body in order to concentrate itself in the spirit. Have you not observed that, when the spirit is intensely occupied with any matter, the body neither feels, nor sees, nor hears? The excitement of fanaticism and enthusiasm often offer, on the part of persons subjected to a violent death, examples of a calmness and coolness that could hardly triumph over excruciating pain unless the sensibility of the patient were neutralized by a sort of moral anesthesia. We know that in the heat of battle, a severe wound is often received without being perceived, whilst under ordinary circumstances a mere scratch is felt acutely. Since the production of these phenomena is due, in part, to the action of physical causes, in part to that of spirits, it may be asked how it can have been possible for the civil authorities in certain cases to put a stop to them. The reason of this is, however, very simple. The action of spirits in these cases is only secondary. They do nothing more than take advantage of a natural tendency. The public authorities did not suppress this tendency, but the cause which kept up and stimulated it, thus reducing it from a state of activity to one of latency, and they were right in so doing, because the matter was giving rise to abuses and scandal. Such intervention, nevertheless, is powerless in cases where the action of spirits is direct and spontaneous. Affection of certain spirits for certain persons. 484. Do spirits affectionately prefer certain persons? Good spirits sympathize with all men who are good or susceptible of amelioration, inferior spirits with men who are bad or who may become such. The attachment in both cases is a consequence of the similarity of sentiment. 485. Is the affection of certain spirits for certain persons exclusively one of sentiment? True affection has nothing of carnality, but when a spirit attaches itself to a living person, it is not always through affection only, for there may also be in that attachment a reminiscence of human passions. 486. Do spirits take an interest in our misfortune and our prosperity? Those who wish us well, are they grieved by the ills we undergo during life? Good spirits do you all the good they can, and rejoice with you in all your joys. They mourn over your afflictions when you do not bear them with resignation, because in that case affliction produces no beneficial result, for you are like the sick man who rejects the disagreeable draught that would cure him. 487. What is the kind of ills that causes most grief to our spirit friends? Is it our physical sufferings or our moral imperfections? What grieves them most is your selfishness and your hard-heartedness, for these are the root of all your troubles. They smile at the imaginary sorrows that are born of pride and ambition. They rejoice in those which will shorten your term of trial. Our spirit friends, knowing that corporeal life is only transitory, and that the tribulations by which it is accompanied are the means that will enable us to reach a happier state, are more grieved for us by the moral imperfections which keep us back than by physical ills, which are only transitory. Spirits attach as little importance to misfortunes which affect us only in our earthly ideas as we do to the trifling sorrows of childhood. Seeing the afflictions of life to be the means of our advancement, they regard them only as the passing crisis which will restore the sick man to health. They are grieved by our sufferings as we are grieved by those of a friend, but judging the events of our lives from a truer point of view, they appreciate them differently. While inferior spirits try to drive us to despair in order to hinder our advancement, the good ones seek to inspire us with the courage that will turn our trials into a source of gain for our future. 488. Have the relatives and friends who have gone before us into the other life more sympathy for us than spirits who are strangers to us? Undoubtedly they have, and they often protect you as spirits according to their power. Are they sensible of the affection we preserve for them? Very sensible, but they forget those who forget them. Guardian angels, protecting, familiar, and sympathetic spirits. 489. Are there spirits who attach themselves to a particular individual in order to protect and help him? Yes, the spirit brother, what you call the spirit protector or the good genius. 490. What is to be understood by the expression guardian angel? A spirit protector of high degree. 491. What is the mission of a spirit protector? That of a father towards his children. To lead the object of his protection into the right road, to aid him with his counsels, to console him in his afflictions, and to sustain his courage under the trials of his earthly life. 492. Is a spirit protector attached to an individual from his birth? From his birth to his death, and he often follows him after death in the spirit life, and even in several successive corporeal existences, for these existences are but very short phases of his existence as a spirit. 493. Is the mission of a spirit protector voluntary or obligatory? Your spirit protector is obliged to watch over you because he has accepted that task, but a spirit is allowed to choose his ward among the beings who are sympathetic to him. In some cases this office is a pleasure, in others it is a mission or a duty. In attaching himself to a person, is a spirit obliged to refrain from protecting other individuals? No, but he does so less exclusively. 494. Is the spirit protector indissolubly attached to the person confided to his guardianship? It often happens that spirits quit their position in order to fulfill various missions, but in that case an exchange of wards takes place. 495. Does a spirit protector sometimes abandon his ward when the latter persists in neglecting his counsels? He withdraws from him when he sees that his counsels are useless, and that there is a stubborn determination to yield to the influence of inferior spirits, but he does not abandon him entirely, and continues to make himself heard. It is not the spirit who quits the man, but the man who closes his ears against the spirit. As soon as the man calls him back, the spirit returns to him. If there be a doctrine that should win over the most incredulous, By its charm and its beauty, it is that of the existence of spirit protectors or guardian angels. To think that you have always near you beings who are superior to you and who are always beside you to counsel you, to sustain you, to aid you in climbing the steep ascent of self-improvement, whose friendship is truer and more devoted than the most intimate union that you can contract upon the earth. Is not such an idea most consoling? Those beings are near you by the command of God. It is He who has placed them beside you. They are there for love of Him, and they fulfill towards you a noble but laborious mission. They are with you wherever you may be, in the dungeon, in solitude, in the lazar house, even in the haunts of debauchery. Nothing ever separates you from the friend whom you cannot see, but whose gentle impulsions are felt, and whose wide monitions are heard in the innermost recesses of your heart. Would that you were more fully impressed with this truth! How often would it aid you in your moments of need! How often would it save you from the snares of evil spirits! But at the great day of account, how often will your guardian angel have to say to you, "Did I not urge you, and yet you would not follow my leading? Did I not show you the abyss, and yet you persisted in throwing yourself into it? Did I not cause your conscience to hear the voice of truth, and have you not followed lying counsels?" Question your guardian angels. Establish between yourselves and them the affectionate intimacy which exists between tried and loving friends. Do not think to hide anything from them, for they are the eye of God, and you cannot deceive them. Think of the future. Seek to advance on the upward road. Your trials will be shorter, your existences happier. Men, take courage. Cast far from you all prejudices and mental reservations. Enter resolutely upon the new road that opens before you. You have guides. Follow them. Your goal cannot fail you, for that goal is God Himself. To those who may think it impossible that spirits of high degree should bind themselves to a task so laborious and demanding so much patience on their part, we reply that we influence your souls while at many millions of leagues from you. To us space is nothing, and while living in another world, our spirits preserve their connection with yours. We possess qualities of which you can form no idea, but be sure that God has not imposed upon us a task above our strength, and that He has not abandoned you upon the earth without friends and without support. Every guardian angel has his ward, over whom he watches as a father watches over his child. He rejoices when he sees him following the right road. He mourns when his counsels are neglected. Do not fear to worry us with your questions. Remain, on the contrary, always in connection with us. You will thus be stronger and happier. It is this communication between each man and his familiar spirit that will eventually make all men mediums and drive out incredulity from your world. You who have received instruction, instruct in your turn. You who are possessed of talents, raise your brethren. You know not how great a work you accomplish by so doing. It is the work of Christ, the work imposed on you by God. Why has God given you intelligence and knowledge, if not to share them with your brethren, to aid them to advance on the road that leads to eternal felicity? The doctrine of guardian angels watching over their wards, notwithstanding the distance which separates different worlds, has in it nothing that should excite our surprise. It is as natural as it is grand and sublime. Do we not see a father upon the earth watch over his child even though at a distance from him, and aid him by the wise counsels of his letters? Why, then, should it be deemed surprising that spirits should guide from one world to another those whom they take under the protection, since to them the distance which separates worlds is less than that which on earth separates continents? Besides, have they not the universal fluid which binds together all the worlds of the universe and makes them part and parcel of each other? The universal vehicle of the transmission of thought, as the air is for us the vehicle of the transmission of sound. 496. If a spirit abandons his ward and no longer does him good, can he do him harm? Good spirits never do harm to anyone. They leave that to those who take their place, and you then accuse fate of the misfortunes which overwhelm you, while these are in reality the result of your own wrongdoing. 497. Can a spirit protector leave his ward at the mercy of a spirit who should desire to do him harm? Evil spirits unite together to neutralize the action of the good ones, but the will of the ward suffices to give back all his power to the spirit protector. The latter may find elsewhere another person whose good will renders it easy to help him. In such a case, he takes advantage of the opportunity of doing good while awaiting the return of his ward. 498. When the spirit protector allows his ward to wander into wrong paths, is it because he is unable to cope with the malevolent spirits who mislead him? It is not because he is unable, but because he does not choose to do so. He knows that his ward will become wiser and better through the trials he will have brought upon himself. The spirit protector assists his ward through the sage counsels he suggests to his mind, but which unhappily are not always heeded. It is only the weakness, carelessness, or pride of men that gives strength to bad spirits. Their power over you comes solely from your not opposing sufficient resistance to their action. 499. Is the spirit protector constantly with his ward? Are there no circumstances under which, without abandoning him, he might lose sight of him? There are circumstances under which the presence of the spirit protector is not necessary to the ward. 500. Does a time arrive when the spirit no longer needs a guardian angel? Yes, when he has reached the degree of advancement which enables him to guide himself, as a time arrives when the scholar has no longer need of a master, but this does not take place upon your earth. 501. Why is the action of spirits upon our existence occult, and why, when they are protecting us, do they not do so ostensibly? If you counted on their support, you would not act of yourselves, and your spirit would not progress. In order to advance, each man needs to acquire experience, and often at his own expense. He needs to exercise his powers, otherwise he would be like a child who is not allowed to walk alone. The action of the spirits who desire your welfare is always regulated in such a way as to leave you your free will, for if you had no responsibility, you would not advance on the road that is to lead you to God. Man, not seeing his supporter, puts forth his own strength. His guide, however, watches over him and calls to him from time to bid him beware of danger. 502. When the spirit protector succeeds in leading his ward on the right road, does he thereby gain any benefit for himself? It is a meritorious work, which would be counted to him either for his advancement or for his happiness. He rejoices when he sees his care crowned by success, and triumphs as a teacher triumphs in the success of his pupil. Is he responsible if he does not succeed? No, since he has done everything that depended on him. 503. Does the spirit protector feel sorrow on seeing a ward taking the wrong road? And does not such a sight disturb his own felicity? He is grieved at his errors and pities him, but this affliction has none of the anguish of terrestrial paternity, because he knows that there is a remedy for the evil, and that what is not done today will be done tomorrow. 504. Can we always know the name of our guardian angel? How is it possible for you to know names which have no existence for you? Do you suppose there are no spirits but those whom you know of? But how can we invoke him if we do not know who he is? Give him any name you please, that of any superior spirit for whom you feel sympathy or veneration. Your spirit guardian will answer this appeal, for all good spirits are brothers and assist each other. 505. Are the spirit guardians who take well-known names always the persons who bore those names? No, but they are spirits who are in sympathy with them, and who in many cases come by their order. You require names. They therefore take a name that will inspire you with confidence. When you are unable to execute a commission in person, you send someone in your place who acts in your name. 506. When we are in the spirit life, shall we recognize our spirit guardian? Yes, for it is often a spirit whom you knew before being incarnated. 507. Do all spirit guardians belong to the higher classes of spirits? Are they sometimes found among those of average advancement? Can a father, for example, become the spirit guardian of his child? He may do so, but such guardianship presupposes a certain degree of elevation, and in addition, a power or virtue granted by God. A father who watches over his child may himself be assisted by a spirit of more elevated degree. 508. Can all spirits who have quitted the earth under favorable conditions become the protectors of those whom they love among their survivors? Their power is more or less narrowed by their position, which does not always leave them full liberty of action. 509. Have savages and men who are very low as regards their moral state their spirit guardians? And if so, are these spirits of as high an order as those of men who are more advanced? Every man has a spirit who watches over him, but missions are always proportional to their object. You do not give a professor of philosophy to a child who is only learning to read. The advancement of the familiar spirit is always proportional to that of the spirit he protects. While you yourself have a spirit of higher degree who watches over you, you may, in your turn, become the protector of a spirit who is lower than you, and the progress you help him to make will contribute to your own advancement. God does not demand of any spirit more than is consistent with his nature and with the degree at which he has arrived. 510. When a father who watches over his child is reincarnated, does he still continue to watch over him? His task in that case becomes more difficult, but in a moment of freedom he asks some sympathetic spirit to assist him in accomplishing it. But spirits do not undertake missions which they cannot carry on to the end. A spirit, when incarnated, especially in worlds in which existence is grossly material, is too much fettered by his body to be able to devote himself entirely to another, that is to say, to give him personally all the help he needs. For this reason, those who are not sufficiently elevated to suffice by the work of guardianship are themselves assisted by spirits of higher degree, so that if, from any cause, the help of one spirit should fail, his place is supplied by another. 511. Is there, besides the spirit guardian, an evil spirit attached to each individual for the purpose of exciting him to evil, and thus of furnishing him with the opportunity of struggling between good and evil? It would not be correct to say attached. It is very true that bad spirits endeavor to draw you out of the right road when they find an opportunity of doing so, but when one of them attaches himself to an individual, he does so of his own accord because he hopes to be listened to. In such a case there is a struggle between the good and the evil spirit, and the victory remains with the one to whose influence the man has voluntarily subjected himself. 512. May we have several protecting spirits? Every man has about him a number of sympathetic spirits of more or less elevation, who interest themselves in him from affection, as he also has others who help him to do evil. It would seem, then, that sympathetic spirits may be either good or bad? Yes, a man is always surrounded by spirits who are in sympathy with him, whatever may be his character. 514. Are familiar spirits the same as sympathetic spirits and spirit guardians? There are very many shades in guardianship and in sympathy. You may give to these whatever names you please, but the familiar spirit is rather the general friend of the family. From the above explanations, and from observation of the nature of spirits who attach themselves to men, we draw the following inferences. The spirit protector, good genius, or guardian angel is the one whose mission it is to follow each man through the course of his life, and to aid him to progress. His degree of advancement is always superior to that of his ward. Familiar spirits attach themselves to certain persons for a longer or shorter period in order to be useful to them within the limits, often somewhat narrow, of their possibilities. They are generally well-intentioned, but sometimes rather backward, and even frivolous. They busy themselves with the everyday details of human life, and only act by order or with the permission of the spirit guardians. Sympathetic spirits are those who are drawn to us by personal affection, and by a similarity of tastes in good or in evil. The duration of their relationship with us is almost always dependent on circumstances. An evil genius is an imperfect or wicked spirit who attaches himself to a man for the purpose of perverting him, but he acts of his own motion and not in virtue of a mission. His tenacity is proportionate to the more or less easy access accorded to him. A man is always free to listen to the suggestions of an evil genius or to repel them. 515. What is to be thought of those persons who seem to attach themselves to certain individuals in order to urge them on to their injury or to guide them on the right road? Some persons do, in fact, exercise over others a species of fascination which seems irresistible. When this influence is used for evil, it is to be attributed to evil spirits who make use of evil men in order the more effectively to subjugate their victim. God may permit this in order to try you. 516. Could our good or evil genius incarnate himself in order to accompany us more closely in our earthly life? That sometimes occurs, but they more frequently entrust this mission to incarnated spirits who are in sympathy with them. 517. Are there spirits who attach themselves to all the members of a family in order to watch over and aid them? Some spirits attach themselves to the members of a family who live together and who are united by affection, but do not attribute pride of race to spirit guardians. 518. Spirits being attracted to individuals by their sympathies, are they similarly attracted to companies of persons united in view of special ends? Spirits go by preference to the place where they meet their similars. They are more at ease among such, and more sure of being listened to. Everyone attracts spirits to himself according to his tendencies, whether as an individual or as an element of a collective whole, such as a society, a city, or a nation. Societies, towns, and nations are therefore assigned by spirits of more or less elevated degree, according to the character and passions which predominate in them. Imperfect spirits withdraw from those who repel them, from which it follows that the moral excellence of collective wholes, like that of individuals, tends to keep away bad spirits and to attract good ones, who muse and keep alive the sense of rectitude in the masses, as others may sow among them the worst passions. 519. Have agglomerations of individuals, such as societies, cities, nations, their special spirit guardians? Yes, for those assemblages constitute collective individualities who are pursuing a common end and who have need of a higher direction. 520. Are the spirit guardians of masses of men of a higher degree of advancement than those who are attached to individuals? Their advancement is always in proportion with the degree of advancement of masses as of individuals. 521. Can certain spirits advance the progress of the arts by protecting those who cultivate them? There are special spirit protectors who assist those by whom they are invoked when they judge them to be worthy of their help. But what could they do with those who fancy themselves to be what they are not? They cannot make the blind to see, nor the deaf to hear. The ancients converted these spirit guardians into special deities. The Muses were nothing else than the allegoric personification of the spirit protectors of arts and sciences, just as the spirit protectors of the family circle were designated by the name of Lares and Penates. Among the moderns, the arts, the various industries, cities, countries, have also their protecting patrons, who are no other than spirit guardians of a higher order, but under different names. Each man having his sympathetic spirit, it follows that in every collective whole, the generality of sympathetic spirits corresponds to the generality of individuals, that stranger spirits are attracted to it by identity of tastes and of thoughts. In a word, that these assemblages, as well as individuals, are more or less favorably surrounded, influenced, assisted, according to the predominant character of the thoughts of those who compose them. Among nations, the conditions which exercise an attractive action upon spirit are the habits, manners, dominant characteristics of their people, and above all their legislation, because the character of a nation is reflected in its laws. Those who uphold the reign of righteousness among themselves combat the influence of evil spirits. Wherever the laws consecrate injustice, inhumanity, good spirits are in the minority, and the mass of bad ones who flock in, attracted by that state of things, keep the people in their false ideas, and paralyze the good influences, which being only partial, are lost in the crowd, like a solitary wheat-ear in the midst of tares. It is therefore easy, by studying the characteristics of nations or of any assemblage of men, to form to oneself an idea of the invisible population which is mixed up with them in their thoughts and in their actions. End of Book 2, Chapter 9, Part 1.